Okay. So we need to approve the minutes of the April 25th, 2022 meeting.
Yeah, I forgot to put Barry Idarola's name on. He texted me this morning, and I did it before, so we don't have to, you can vote with his name that he attended the meeting.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right,
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the April 25th meeting.
do I have a second? Jim, I think you're muted.
I shouldn't be muted.
No, you're not. All right,
I'll make a motion to, for the minutes for the April 25th meeting. Approve the minutes.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Jim, when you're voting, announce your name, please.
You got it.
Thank you, sir. All right, did someone have the final plans for the town hall?
They should have been dropped off to Gail today.
I did, but should I go get them? I didn't realize I needed to bring them. I can go get them.
Yeah, why don't you run and get them? We'll hold the meeting.
It won't take long.
No.
Bill, you could go to voting on the corrected minutes.
Fine.
They already did it.
Just
You
did.
mean a corrected decision?
Yeah, I meant decision, sorry.
I'm not sure that needs a vote, it's a minor change. It's only an error in place.
Fine with me.
Yeah,
What happened was...
I'm gonna read it, I'm gonna read that change into the minutes in a minute.
Okay, got it.
Once Gail gets back. I believe we have well, I need Gail to be able to take the minutes, so I don't wanna move on to anything else. But,
Funny how that works.
you know.
Cindy's online.
There's Cindy. Hey, Cindy,
Hello.
how are you?
Good, how are you? Thanks for the link, Jack.
Nice job.
Cute cat.
He is huge. We'll probably see him again.
Oh, really?
In case anyone is not aware who that is our town council.
My cat is restricted because of the dog. She hides. And then she takes over the house at night. So.
I have two. One likes to sit next to me, and the other one likes to sit on top of my computer.
Yeah, helping you out.
Hey, can you
Yeah.
text Damon for me? He just called me and,
Damon just called you?
yeah, well, half an hour ago. I obviously didn't get the call. Doesn't- We're just waiting on Gail, Cindy. She left something in the office, and I don't want to proceed without her taking minutes for the meeting.
Makes sense.
How you doing?
board members do you have there, Bill?
Is us two, James Quirk is online, and Barry should be here any minute, so. Actually, probably 7:30, so we're gonna have to hold that portion of the meeting till at least Barry gets here. So,
What about Damon?
Damon is supposed to be here,
I'll text him.
yeah.
I texted him already.
Okay.
That has a good renderings and it has, that, yeah.
So Jeff, how you been? Get him in.
When's the work getting underway around here? I see an excavator sitting out.
The building's going.
Building's gone, the old station's gone,
You didn't even notice that?
yeah,
Gotcha.
so it's starting. Thank you. Alrighty,
So what did I miss?
Nothing.
nothing, we held up the meeting for you.
Oh, how I feel special.
Alright, so these are the final plans, Jack. These are the final plans, right, Jack? The ones we already...
Yes, I can update the board. There's Damon.
Bill, I'm on here.
Alright, Damon.
When you voted to approve the campus design, you did it with the condition that they address a couple of small items from Graves and that they work with town officials on the landscaping plan. And I can confirm that the Graves items, or just a couple, have been addressed, and that I sat down with Dan Byer, Ann Mazar, their landscape architect, and their civil engineer, and maybe someone else was there, but we went through almost tree by tree, canopy by canopy, root system by root system, and I can tell you that the design on those plans are well thought out and will protect the sidewalks, the parking lot, and everything else. They have a very large, deep taproot, these trees. They don't have the ones that spread out. And she showed us all that data and all that information. We spent quite a bit of time on it.
Duly noted. I don't know who to blame if it doesn't work.
One question for you, Jack.
Yeah.
So have we figured out who is gonna be handling the maintenance and the sidewalks and the walkways and things like that?
Yeah, I
Yes,
think
and
Parks.
Dan is here, but Dan, as the Parks Director, is responsible for everything except the tree work, the above-ground tree work.
Correct.
And then that's the tree ward. Do I have that right, Dan?
Somebody's got the hand up.
Yes. So like,
Yes.
bottom level pruning would get handled and then. Are you talking about this, what's gonna happen with the golf site?
With the, yeah, with
Is that what you're talking
the
about
campus,
now?
yeah.
No, this town.
Oh, this thing.
This is.
Oh, no, yeah, this totally, I see what you're saying. What's that?
The poster's on the stage. Yeah, I understand.
All right, that being said, the only thing that has to happen is, I think it needs to be signed. Is there a signature page with this?
I don't think, I think what I need from you is just that they've satisfied that condition of approval.
I think we already approved it once, right?
Yeah, we already approved it.
Yes, and we just want to make sure that condition has been satisfied.
I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I'm fine. Jeff, was the additional work done?
Jack had taken a look at that.
Okay,
It wasn't, I had very little.
okay,
Very minor issues.
all right.
Do we need to take a vote on this, or we already voted on it?
Well, let's take a vote accepting the additional conditions we set, so.
I make a motion to accept the additional conditions
That are resolved.
presented. Second.
Second,
All those in favor?
John, aye.
James Burke, aye.
David, aye.
Phil Ambrosino, aye.
If there's something that needs to be signed, if you leave it with Gail, I will stop and sign it tomorrow.
I don't think so, I think we're good.
Thanks, Jack, for all your help.
Thank you.
We already signed the decision on it, right, Jack?
Yes,
Okay.
and the appeal period is probably gone, I don't know that for a fact, but it's getting very close.
All right. All right. We're going to move to the discussion of 102 North Ave. Are you here?
Yeah, I can do a little intro for you, Mr. Chair. I've had a couple meetings with Jude Galvin, the engineer, and Mr. Clark, who's the owner, and they want to do a private road subdivision at 102 North. And I thought it'd be a good idea, never having done one in Mendon before, that they come informally to you to gauge what the board would like to see and if it's acceptable.
Do we have any materials indicating what's laid
Now,
out?
I'm just gonna show them on screen.
Yeah, this
Wait,
is Jude Galvin.
you've got it in your packets too.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I'll just share my screen for you.
What? Yeah, I gotta have it in here somewhere. There it is. Yeah, if I could have one. Thank you.
So can you see that up on the board?
Jimmy and Damon, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
All right.
The same plan?
Yeah, just,
So is this gonna be a subdivision, or is this gonna be common drive?
it's a, I thought there were 3 lots.
Right. The ones that
Looks
just,
like there's four, one of them's got.
Maybe there's 4, 3 new lots.
It's 3 different plans.
All right.
Oh, yeah, three, one existing, and then 3 lots. But does that first house have frontage on North Ave? No. So you're adding additional 3 lots to, and there's an existing house there. Correct. So are you looking to do this as a subdivision or a common drive?
So we're looking to do it as a subdivision to create the frontage for the 3 additional lots, but keeping it as private.
He wants a private road, Damon.
Right, so you're gonna do a private drive, but you're gonna go to zoning for that.
No, we're doing a subdivision to create the frontage for the lots, then we're asking for waivers from the subdivision regs.
He's not looking for a private drive, Damon, he's looking for a private road.
Maybe if you let Jude go through it, it'd be a little
Yeah.
easier to understand.
Similar to what we did in Robinson Road.
Well, I know what it is, I mean, I know, I live on one, but I'm just trying to, I just thought, I don't, but go ahead, thank you.
Yeah.
So this is one large parcel right now, there's an existing house that's got quite a lengthy driveway to get to the back.
What the hell is this?
Mr. Clark is looking to add 3 additional lots.
These are the lots.
Property.
And the reason we came up with doing so is because there isn't enough frontage off
One big lot. Now, you divide it.
North Ave, is to create a subdivision road, basically a paper street, create frontage, 3 additional lots, and asking for research from, curbing and things of that are typically normal within a subdivision road. We want to try and keep it to minimal width and not have a 24-foot wide pavement. We're looking at about proposing like 16-foot wide paved drive with 2-foot shoulders so that the fire truck has their 3-foot clear width coming down to each of the properties. The dead end length of the roadway is slightly longer than the 800 that's allowed and required. And the reason for that is there's a large wetland right in the middle of the property, and we want to get past that and put the turnaround outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. Otherwise, we could have had the cul-de-sac as a paper street a lot shorter than what we're showing, but we needed to get across the wetlands.
What are you doing for a crossing?
All right?
Is it gonna require a crossing on the wetland?
I'm sorry, say that again, you're breaking up.
Is it gonna require a crossing for the wetlands?
Yes, there's an existing crossing there, and we're going to just approve upon it.
Okay,
Yeah, 'cause this is,
I see.
you know what this is?
Is this the, oh, I know where this is, yeah. Okay, the guy who sits behind where
This used
Tinios.
to be, no, this is up by the farm.
Yeah,
and then found
yeah,
out
it's the one, the house that goes way on the back.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
my house is right here,
Yeah.
on North Patrol.
Yeah.
It's almost,
I know where it
this is the Fino property right
Part of the discussions that I had with Jack was, he was asking if what the possible build-out could be, so we did a plan showing that we could get 8 lots on this property with waivers and dead-end length. There's dead-end length issues. The max build-out as far as, geometry goes is the 8 lots, and Mr. Clark is asking for 3 additional lots, including his lot. So 50% reduction if we were coming through with a conventional subdivision before the board. So our thought was to come in and ask for, a private way in showing 4 lots.
Bill, are you satisfied with the 16-foot wide road for 3 lots?
No, I mean, I think the minimum that we've asked for all the time is 24 feet. Because of the length of the roadway, we'd have to probably run tankers there when we were very long lay, but we would need to be able to have trucks pass each other, and 16 feet isn't going to do it.
Did you hear that?
I believe I heard 24 feet because of the length of the road and the width of the road, and trucks would have to get past each other.
Yes, you'd have to be
Okay,
able,
yeah. What if there was a cistern?
I think they would still need,
Let me just come here so we can hear a little better.
yeah,
So our regulation, or the fire department requirements for cisterns are 5 residential units or more. So if you're putting up single-family homes and only going to have a total of 4 lots, then you would not hit the threshold for a cistern. However, if there's a duplex in there, then you would. The width of the road, I would entertain going less than 24. If you put a cistern somewhere around that crossing, then we don't have to run tankers on that. So that'll be up to the proponent, though.
Okay, I was just throwing it out there for options, but thank you.
So what would be your minimum road width, Bill, if you did have a cistern? Would you come down to 16 feet, or would you make it be 18? What would you, so we know where, so the applicant will know where he needs to be with the numbers?
Yeah, so if there's a cistern down in the area, crossing that wetland and towards the cul-de-sac area of at least, well, what size are the houses? Sorry, roughly square footage?
Approximately 2,500 to 3,000 square feet.
Okay, yeah, so 20,000 gallon cistern down towards the end of that roadway. and I would probably go to down to an 18-foot, I think. 16 feet makes it much too tight trying to get two trucks to pass. In case we need to, for example, we get an engine down there and we have a ladder coming from a mutual aid company, we'd have to get around that engine. 16 feet would just make it too narrow. 18 feet we should be able to do.
Typically, what I've done in the past, and 18 feet is fine, but what I've done on larger common driveways in other towns is I do 16-foot wide paved and then 2-foot stabilized gravel shoulders so that you get a 20-foot clear width from edge to edge.
Yeah, so, I mean, we could have this discussion, because that 2-foot edge on each side would have to be maintained in the wintertime as well, meaning that it's plowed cleared of snow. I'm open for a discussion on it, to go in less than 24, as long as we don't have to run tankers down the private road.
Yeah, understood. I thought of that too. So I was kind of assuming that we would be putting a cistern in lieu of the 24-foot wide. Perfect discussion for tonight.
Is there going to be some type of association or something for the upkeep of the road?
Yes, there'll be a typical homeowners association so they know who they're going to pay into a certain amount of homeowner condo association, not a condo, but a homeowners association, so that they have to pay to maintain the swales that we're going to propose for the drainage and plowing the street and maintaining it.
Bill, I think it'd be a good idea to have some draft language for that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yep.
Sure. I mean, basically, the point of tonight was Jack and I had met, we thought it was a decent idea, and we were trying to get the board's feelings on whether we put in all this work and that, that started grading the road up, widening it, and spending the money, Mr. Clark spending the money on the design, and we come in and you guys tell us that it's not acceptable. We're trying to come in before we get to all that stuff and try and flush out any issues, and one of them obviously being the width of the road.
Well, it's like I pretty much tell everybody, if you go and start work, it's at your own risk until we approve it, so.
Oh, yeah, right.
I wouldn't venture far. I particularly don't see an issue with it, but we'd have to see an entire plan, and Jeff would have to go through it as a peer review, and when we get Jeff's report back, we can more aggressively talk about it. Right now, we're dealing with a bunch of unknowns. I don't think, us as a board, I know we've dealt with one in the past. I don't think we're vehemently opposed as long as it meets, it's, obviously you got the other boards to go through, Concom and stuff, but as far as the planning board, as I understand it, this is going to be kind of family related too, the additional houses?
I am not sure of. I think the client's there, he might be able to answer that.
Are these going to be additional family houses?
Yeah.
Okay. All right,
Bill, I have a question.
yeah, go ahead, Jim.
So, in the wintertime, when this road is going to be maintained, obviously you're going to be hiring a private contractor to maintain the road. When we have storms that exceed a normal pickup truck plowing, pushing back snow bankings, who's going to go in there and tell them they're going to move those snow bankings back? Because it's just something that's going to fall on deaf ears. I've never been one to be against much of anything, but when it comes to the safety of getting those trucks past, I don't really agree with lessening the width of the road. You can't count on a private contractor.
Yeah, I think maybe there'd be something in the homeowners association that, would have, maybe we could have some language in there that maybe we could say something, hopefully, but I guess we could talk about that, when they come in.
Yeah, what I would,
this is gonna be, if this is gonna be, you know, all family project here and they're responsible for their own road, I mean, I imagine that they would take more care in making sure that those snow bankings are back further, but if these houses are gonna go up the market to the public, what if they don't have a plow truck? What if, you know, they don't even know that this is part of what this decision is?
Well, it'll be in the conditions. What I would suggest is get all your engineering together. Please bring a copy of the homeowner's agreement, and then we can start addressing, set up with Jack a date that you're going to be prepared to come in and submit for the public hearing.
Okay, that sounds good.
All right?
Mr. Chairman?
Hold on one second.
If I could just do a quick rewind, a thought just came to mind. On the width of the road, fire department access roads, the minimum width is 20 feet wide. While that does not apply to residential buildings, it's kind of the de facto standard that I would use for the minimum width. So rather than an 18-foot wide, I would say 20 feet wide would be the minimum width. 20-foot wide that is capable of supporting a fire truck and maintained.
And with a 20-foot wide cistern, with a 20-foot wide road, you don't require a cistern to be down there, right?
No, I would want to see a cistern for anything, for any reduction in the road width, I guess. Because even at 20 feet, when you have trucks passing each other, it makes it kind of tight. And when you're running tankers, you're gonna have a lot of that. So I use the 20-foot wide just as a minimum for access to buildings. However, the fire code, like I said, exempts residential buildings from it, but I still just use that as the basis. But for anything less than like 24 feet, I'd want to see a cistern down towards the end of that roadway.
And make sure you utilize the low impact development standards that we have.
We're aiming towards roadside swales, country drainage. Kind of how it's set up now, if you drive through there, it's kind of set up that way now, but it's a 14-foot wide gravel road, and the drainage just kind of sheds off on each direction and runs down the side of the road towards the wetland. We're trying to mimic that with some established swales to clean up the road once the water gets off the pavement.
That's all I had. So when you're ready, come back and submit, and we'll set the public hearing.
Yeah, Jude, give me a call and we'll walk through it.
Sounds good. I appreciate everyone's input.
Thank you, have a good night.
All right. To read in the record, one of the items we took care of earlier was, it was a decision that was written back in 2011 that had an incorrect date on it. We've corrected the date, and it will be submitted to the registry for proper care. And here's our other fellow. Sure.
Elizabeth, my name from your area, and I actually wanted to speak on, you're talking about the Hartford Ave East decision.
Yeah.
So, we've discussed, what prompted this, what prompted looking for this document was, my client was looking to get a building permit, and we couldn't get the building permit without some documentation that the planning board had approved it. So I've spoken with John Erickson, and he was initially looking for a signed copy of the plans, but we were able to track down the decision. However, the decision doesn't it references the plans, but it doesn't reference them specifically enough for him. It does not reference that they're from Gary and Howland or that they're the date of them. So what we were wondering is if it would be possible to amend that decision to include that information as well.
Certainly, we wouldn't be able to complete it this evening. You'd have to wait till the next meeting. But is this the corrected one?
Yes.
With her correction?
Not with my
No.
correction.
All right. So what I would suggest is you get the corrected version to her, and at the next meeting, we'll go through it.
Okay.
Because it's gonna take a vote now. I mean, if you've got other corrections that are more substantial, I mean, just correcting a date is a minor modification, correcting an error. But now you want additional information added. That's becoming too big of a change without taking a vote.
Okay.
All right?
So I'll put it on the June 13th meeting.
If she's gonna be prepared, we'll do that.
Yes.
June
We'll do it on the 13th.
I have the information to you tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may?
Yes.
On that matter, I'm Jeff Walsh with Graves Engineering, peer reviewer for the planning board. I believe I had reviewed that application, and our review letter that should be on file in your office would also have the same information that's being asked to be put onto that,
Okay.
decision.
All right. So we're going to move on to the public hearing for 3537 Hastings. I have a few things to add before we move on to that. Due to the fact that we have one board member abstaining, Mr. Tenio's abstaining from the vote.
Bill?
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure on how this all works, but I am going to speak with ethics tomorrow. I think there's something that you can sign. Cindy, can you help me on that? You're muted. Is
I just need to, who's speaking?
It's Damon speaking.
David, is there a disclosure that I can sign?
Well, what I'm going to tell you is, my understanding is 3 of you have conflicts. Is that true?
That's correct.
If there are 3 of you that have conflicts, where you are an elected board, you can invoke the rule of necessity because you are the special permit granting authority and you need 4 votes. You cannot act with 3 of you abstaining because of conflict. And so you can invoke the rule of necessity and all 3 of you are able to vote. I believe I sent Bill, maybe you can share the email I sent with them. What you all need to do is explain what your potential conflict is, what you're doing. The meeting minutes have to reflect all this. But otherwise, if the 3 of you, we don't choose between the conflicts, so you are all now eligible to vote. Otherwise, the project could not be reviewed.
Okay. Thank you.
I would suggest that all of you,
All right, I'll start with me.
but you all need to explain why it is you have a conflict now.
Yeah.
And meeting minutes need to reflect it, and then, the plain and simple fact is you need 4 for a vote, and there are 5 people on the board, 3 of which have conflicts.
I also have a copy of the regulation for rules and necessity if anybody wants to see it. It's on mass.gov.
Bill, just a technicality, Cindy, you also want the board, once they give their reasons why, you want the board to vote on that, correct?
I think it would be good to vote, because that's, in my mind, that's the only way a board really officially acts, is by vote.
That's fine.
But you sort of don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Thank
My only, guys that I'm in a butter. I have no financial, take in the project. I just happen to show up on the abutters list. So for that reason, I need to invoke the rule of necessity.
Do we all want to speak on what our,
Yes,
Yes, yes. And Gail needs to write it down.
Okay, so
you get that?
so Damon Tenio,
Bill, you're in the butter, okay?
I'm about-
Yep.
yeah.
And Damon?
and yeah, one of my family-owned companies does business on other properties that the applicant owns.
Is there a third?
Yeah, James.
James Burke. I am also a butter of that property.
Okay. So, Bill, you called it a rule of necessity?
It's called the rule of necessity. Here, put this with the minutes, so if anyone comes back later and questions it.
So we have to make a motion to that effect.
Yeah, I need a motion to invoke the rule of necessity
Make
for,
a motion to vote the rule of necessity for the three members that have stated.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
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 James Burke, aye.
Damon Tenio, aye.
All right, that puts that to rest.
Okay.
Now we can move on. It's, get the nice pack here.
If there's anyone that did not sign in, would you please do so on the way out? It's the desk in the hallway. Thank you.
Just so everybody's aware, I run pretty formal meetings. We use Robert's rules. The applicant's going to have an opportunity to state his position. The board will ask its questions, then I will open it to the community. Do not speak unless you're called upon. And when you do, say your name and your address, please. And there's to be no crosstalk. If you need to speak to them, you got to speak through me. That might just be because I don't, how's that, better? Okay.
No, I would expect it to.
Usually I think my voice carries enough. Usually people are telling me to shut up, but
Did you guys do this already?
We already did that.
Bill,
That's on
better
North
read
Avenue.
the ad from the paper.
Yeah.
He just wants to make a
I'm
private
gonna
drive.
get
He
to
just for information. He hasn't submitted
well, at this
anything.
time, read the ad
And what he
from the
needs.
paper into
Talking
the,
about He wants a 24
into the
vote instead
minutes.
of a 16. So he's gonna do the drawing.
holy cow, I need my glasses for this. All
No submittal or anything, just information.
right. Keep it down back there. In accordance with MGL Chapter 48, Section 11, notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held on Monday, May 23rd, 2022, at 7 PM in the Mendon Town Hall, in person at the Mendon Town Hall, to consider a site plan review special permit by John and Art for 3537 Hastings, 10 Washington Street?
Bill, you can read the bigger one.
This one?
Yeah,
Ah, there we go. I can see
Yeah.
that one.
yeah. They,
Yeah, 10 Washington Street, 20 Washington Street for a smart growth, mixed-use development comprised of mutually compatible and connected commercial and residential uses sharing critical infrastructure. Owner of the property is Hastings Street Plaza LLC, PO Box 44, Mendon, Mass. 01756. The plans are engineered by Tetra Tech, 100 Nickerson Road, Marlboro.
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to clarify, and again, this is Jeff Walsh from Graves Engineering. One of the addresses is 18 Washington Street, not 10 Washington
Okay.
Street.
My apologies.
No problem.
That's when I was reading, I was
I
a
was-
blind man reading off the other,
And I was following along.
thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, Mr. Applicant.
Which mic?
The hand one.
Good evening, my name's John Nenot.
Doesn't sound like your microphone's working.
It's only for the people on the computer.
Oh, all right.
Just real quick, J. Cross, 17 Washington Street. What is the purpose of the special permit and what authority?
Can you wait until I open to the community, please? You gotta give the applicant an opportunity to go over the project. We have not seen this, so I can't answer your questions for you.
Good evening, John Nenot. I'm here with Hastings Street Plaza LLC. We currently own the properties at 3537 Washington Street, 18 and 20, I'm sorry, 35 and 37 Hastings Street, 18 and 20 Washington Street. The site comprises a piece that is 18.33 acres. We're proposing a mixed-use development on the site that will contain a supermarket, an outdoor furniture store, a garden center, a bank, and 25 additional housing units. Mendon doesn't currently have zoning for this type of project. I've been in front of the board a couple times before this, informally, to speak with the board, if they would be open to hearing a project like this in town. This is a type of project that the state of Massachusetts is pushing for smaller communities to have, to reduce the size of the big lots that Mendon has, 60,000 square feet, to have smaller housing in a more densely in a more densely configured area, and to have a mixed-use walkable project, something that you can live in a house, you can walk to the grocery store, you can walk to the bank. So we're trying. I know the zoning is a little bit technical on this. What we plan on doing for the zoning is we plan on coming in front of this board for a special permit, which is for the plaza, which is an allowable use in the use regulations. We're going to be going in front of ZBA for variance to allow more than one building on one lot. We'll also be asking the board here for a special permit to allow more than one building on the commercial portion of it. And we'll be asking the Zoning Board of Appeals for variance to allow more than one residential use unit on a lot. We don't know if we're going to get all those. We decided to do it this way rather than move forward and just do a comprehensive permit. A comprehensive permit in Massachusetts is what everybody knows is a 40B. So we could have moved forward, we could have submitted to the state as 40B. We could do about 100 residential units on this property without a problem as a 40B. Basically what that does, it takes the town out of the mix for what they can ask us to do and what we have to do. Takes the town zoning out of the mix. We chose not to do that. I know we have a bad reputation in town, but we chose not to do that so that we could work with the town to come up with a plan that everybody's happy with. Which we're going to try to work with the historical committee on the style of buildings. I've already worked with Kathy Schofield on saving the building at 12 Washington Street and converting that into one of the units to do a structure that looks like the barn there now is rotted off at the ground level. But we would do a new barn that looks like the existing barn with a housing unit in it. We would screen the back housing development right behind the barn, so there would be no in and out traffic coming from Washington Street. All you would see is the house and the existing barn from Washington Street. On the other end, this would be gated. It wouldn't be a security gate. You would just pull up to it and the gate would go up, and we're planning a gate there, so once again, you won't see the units from Washington Street. We're trying to keep the view from Washington Street the same exact way it is. The way the project is designed is the commercial portion of the project is all located on the current driving range site. The driving range is a commercial use that's been in use for 30-plus years. We're asking for an extension of the pre-existing non-conforming use of the driving range and changing that into the plaza. Once again, we're asking for that because we feel that this is beneficial to the town, not a detriment to the town. We feel a grocery store is a much better use for the property than a driving range that half a dozen golfers a day use. A grocery store would be beneficial to the whole community. Everybody would have a chance to buy groceries there, goods, services. Same thing with the other buildings. We're providing the bank. That would be, Dean Bank wants to move out of the plaza across the street to a standalone building. We're also doing a little entertainment area for kids with a carousel and some coin-operated rides in the front that they could use. If we have, through this process, we would like to do a miniature golf course up front and keep the miniature golf course of this portion. So that's one thing that I would discuss with the board moving forward over the next, I'm assuming this is going to go for a while, so I'm assuming as we discuss this, we would discuss doing a miniature golf course up in the front here along with the carousel. All of that stuff will be presented to the ZBA when we go for the special permit, so we're going to have to work through that. We'll work through that with town council, our council. Our council is on vacation this week, so Jack asked me to get a letter together, a legal opinion letter of how we're going to handle the zoning issues. So he is on vacation this week, so next week I'll have a letter to the board to address these issues. Like, I am here to work with the people, especially the direct abutters. I spoke with Brendan multiple times. I've screened his property from the surrounding areas. We won't cut any trees within the 20-foot setback of his. I've given him a strip of land where he has blueberry bushes and stuff on our property. We've agreed to that if the project gets approved. We're doing landscaping buffers around all the existing houses where there wouldn't be less trees. We'll also be doing a fence with slats so you can't see in and out of the house, in and out of the site to the houses. I know there's technicalities with the zoning, but we're trying to do this without going for a comprehensive permit and just doing what we want. So I know there's a lot of people that are opposed to this, but we felt that this was our best way to handle it with the town and the abutters, to get something that the town would want too. I mean, I have been trying to build relationships with everybody in town. I know there's bad blood between a lot of people in town and the Meehan's and the Meehan group as a general. So I am trying to build relationships in town and trying to work with the abutters and trying to get past that and do what's best for the town. So with that said, I'm gonna hand this over to Matt Moyen. He's the engineer for Tetra Tech. He's gonna go through the basic drainage and the setup of the site, and then we'll take questions after that. Thank you.
Thanks, John. So Matt Moyen with Tetra Tech, as John said, the engineer for the site. I'm gonna keep this pretty high level and open it up to discussion so we can talk details of what people really care most about. So as John mentioned, the project is a multi-use development with commercial and residential components. To help orient everyone, and I know everyone understands the driving range, but right side of the plan is Route 16. You've got Millville Road here. Top of the plan is Washington Street. So I just want to get everyone oriented. In terms of the building program, as John mentioned, you have a commercial property. It's got an L-shaped building that has a market, indoor, outdoor retail, drive-through bank, and the carousel. The residential development in the back consists of 27 units. In terms of access and circulation for the project, the commercial use access is right off of Route 16. Proposed as part of this project is a multi-lane shared use roundabout. The intent of this roundabout is to improve traffic operations along Route 16 at Millville Road. There's a secondary access point to the top side of the development here. That's primarily for loading and unloading deliveries, servicing of the commercial component. So the primary access point for users will be at the roundabout. For the residential side, access is along Washington Street. There's 2 curb cuts proposed. The first curb cut is more or less at the existing 18 Washington Street residence, the historic home. The intent of this curb cut is to provide access to 2 units, the barn unit and the historical structure. It's gated for emergency access only, so in case the fire department needs to access from a secondary location, this gate could be opened. Primary access to the remaining homes in the residential development are off of the second access point. That'll be a 24-foot wide access drive. That'll grant access to the entirety with the exception of these 2 front units. In terms of the utilities on the site, it's going to be a combination of on-site and off-site utilities. Because the town of Mendon doesn't have public water right now, we're going to need a public water system that's proposed at the rear of the site. That public water system will support both the residential and the commercial use. In terms of fire protection, we have multiple cisterns. We have a cistern located up at the front for the commercial component. It's going to be a 40,000 gallon paired cistern at the request of the department, so that when they're running trucks through the center of town and to support fire protection for the entire downtown community, they can pick up water at the cistern and circle back out through the roundabout. So it's a big benefit to the community. A second cistern will be located to support the residential component. In terms of wastewater, it'll all be on-site disposal of wastewater. There's two separate systems. There'll be one that'll serve the commercial component, which is this light green you guys see here on the plan, and then to serve the residential component off along the 22 and 20 property boundary here, two separate soil absorption fields to handle the residential flow. Stormwater is managed separately. So the commercial site is primarily a closed drainage system. So what that means is you have catch basins, you have manholes, pipes. That closed drainage system captures the runoff from the surface. It's going to route everything through two water quality structures to remove pollutants and sediments. That'll then run out to an infiltration basin at the rear of the site, as you can see here in blue. That deals with both water quality and water quantity leaving the site. There'll be a separate underground system located to the rear of the site that'll take the roof runoff from the large building that doesn't need treatment because you don't have pollutants up on the roof. It'll allow that runoff to infiltrate into the ground and deal with peak flows. On the commercial side, we approached it a bit differently. It's country drainage style on the residential component. Yep, it's country drainage, so it's mostly gutter flows captured by paved waterways into a bunch of swales. Those flows are either going to reach the infiltration basin out back, or a couple of rain gardens we have proposed along the Washington Street frontage. So if you're not familiar with rain gardens, it's a shallow depression that's planted with shrubs and water-tolerant grasses and flowers and whatnot to manage, again, water quality and quantity. Electric, telephone, and data are all available along the Route 16 corridor, as well as Washington Street, so we would tie into that. There's an existing natural gas line that runs down Route 16 that would provide natural gas for the project. In terms of lighting on the commercial component will be consistent with the use, really just lighting to provide secure access and circulation through the site. It'll be dark sky compliant lighting to minimize any off-site increases in lighting. On the residential component, it's not likely to include light poles, but we're still kind of working through that detail, but you know, what you typically expect to see in a residential neighborhood. Just make sure I got everything covered here, utility-wise. Yep. Okay, so landscaping. For the commercial side, we have landscaped islands throughout the parking lot, so both at the bank and the main facility here, as well as some perimeter screening up front along Route 16 and on the back side for the residential development. So your typical commercial style landscaping. The Route 16 corridor, quite a bit of trees, planning on incorporating shrubs, plants, as you guys probably seen driving down Route 16 at some of the other properties, the nice landscaping along the corridor. The intent is to mimic that out front here. On the residential side, as John talked about, there's a lot of perimeter screening. The whole goal of this residential component is to maintain the view from Washington Street. Right now, when you drive down Washington Street, you see a couple of houses. The landscaping plan is intended to support that. You keep the 3 houses along the Washington Street frontage. It's screened by a lot of large trees around the historical home, as well as quite a few proposed trees right on the frontage and some setback from the frontage, so that the remainder of the development is really set to the interior of the site, so it's screened from the general public. So unless you're driving into the site, the goal is you're not going to know it's there. Now, in closing, the project is a great fit for this type of site. The site is a perfect fit for sustainable development. So this project complies and consists with Massachusetts' current sustainable development principles, and it's well aligned with the vision of Mendon's master plan. It plans on incorporating infrastructure improvements and resiliency, climate resiliency. It's located in the Mendon Center District, or just outside the Mendon Center District, so it provides great connectivity. All the shared use paths and connectivity that is provided by this roundabout will provide residents along Washington Street, residents as part of this development, access to all the commercial components to the downtown area. There's a lot of benefit associated with that. We also have access to existing infrastructure. That's another big benefit to this location. We have existing utility infrastructure along Route 16. We have existing roadways that are going to be improved upon and help with the traffic issues along Route 16. The project will strengthen the economy. You know, a development like this will bring in a lot of tax revenue to the town. And finally, certainly last but not least, it's going to preserve quite a bit of open space to the rear of the site, and it's going to help preserve a small town feel. I know when you look at this plan, it's a dense development. How does this fit into the small town feel? Well, by having this dense development located downtown, it takes a lot of pressure off the outer reaches of town, where you really have that natural feel. You have these large open spaces. Providing this type of housing, these two-bedroom style homes that really you don't find in Mendon, towards the center of town, reduces a lot of the pressure along the exterior of town, where you have that sprawl development, where you need these large lots to have a single-family home. This helps relieve that pressure on the rest of the town by providing these lots in the center district. So I'll end there, and happy to dig into details that people are most interested in.
Is there access, okay, so it looks like there's walk-in paths from the house to the commercial piece?
There are, and I'm glad you brought that up. So there's walking paths. You have a sidewalk through the residential area. There's connectivity from the residential component through the back side of the commercial. There's outdoor retail. So the idea is, if you want to go to the market or head over to the bank, you have an opportunity to walk across this rear drive through the outdoor retail and gain access to the shopping plaza. There's also a walking path that wraps around in through the open space area. So both residences of the community and the surrounding area will have the ability to have this nice, quiet walking path through the rear of the site.
Excuse me, guys, is this something that can be put on a screen for people that are on TV?
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice that wasn't up.
Can you put that up on the screen, Dan?
Yeah, let me see this.
It'd be the site rendering
I think
PDF.
it's linked in the chat. Dave wants to look it up on his own too.
Yeah, it would be the site rendering PDF. That would be the best.
In the state obviously approved and felt the traffic circle was adequate.
We're working with Mass DOT right now on the off-site improvements. They're a fan in general of roundabouts, which is why we're heading down that pathway. We still have to go through the access permit process with the state.
But I mean, have they looked through the traffic study at all? And
Yes.
they feel it's adequate to support the traffic?
Yep, they've seen this roundabout. We've spoken with them on a number of occasions. The big question that the state has right now is, do they want it to be a multi-lane roundabout day one, or a single lane roundabout day one with the potential to make it a two-lane roundabout? Right now, we're showing a multi-lane roundabout.
Why would they want to make it a single?
As you may be aware, they're coming through
Yeah.
Route 16 with a development. They have single lanes in either direction leading up to this intersection. So the debate or the discussion they're having internally is, does it warrant multi-lane at the roundabout today? Or do we just need to consider multi-lane for the future as Route 16 volume may increase over time? What they don't want to do is do a single lane roundabout, not give enough footprint to expand if
Right.
30 years from now they need a second lane there. So this is the largest build out of a roundabout. There we go.
Guys, any questions?
Yeah, what's the height of the buildings?
They're single floor, they'll probably end up about 16 or 17 feet high.
Okay.
So this is designed as a community. It's going to give the village feel. I'm going to work with the Historical Commission on a design for the high style. I'm going to talk to Kathy Schofield. We're going to work with them to try to get a few buildings that fit the area. I know everybody is afraid of the density, but if you look at the area in this historic district downtown, all the lots range from anywhere from 8,000 square feet up to 30,000 square feet. The lots in this historical district downtown are all small lots with houses that were close together, like a village-style house. We're trying to do a community here where everybody kind of knows each other. It's going to be over 55. It's for people that want to downsize out of a 4-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom, single-story ranch with no stairs. We're providing walking trails. If you look from the Route 16, the woods in the back past the driving range are pretty much all staying. That's the area around our public water supplies that we're not going to touch any trees. That's where the walking trails would go through. So when you look past the buildings, it will still be all trees in the back of the site. Basically from where the stone wall, if anybody hits balls at the driving range, there's a wall there that you try to hit the ball over. From the stone wall back, the woods are pretty much staying. To the right of that is a field now on the area where the road and the cul-de-sac is, that has very few trees in it now. It's all cleared. The section that we would be clearing would be from the edge of that field out and around the corner to Washington Street. That would be the biggest area that we would impact on clearing. But as I stated, I agreed with the abutter at 20 Washington Street not to cut any trees within the 20-foot buffer around his house, give him some extra land on the right side to add some buffer around him, and he's the one that this is going to affect the most. And then we're going to fully screen and buffer the view from Washington Street, as Matt said. We're trying to do a community here that people that are over 55 will know everybody. It's with 60,000 square foot lots in Mendon, a lot of people don't ever even talk to their neighbor. They're 400 feet away down the road. This is a different type of community. We think it would be great for the town. I know there's other people in this audience that don't think so, but it's what the state of Massachusetts wants you to do now. They don't want big sprawling subdivisions. That's all I can say on this.
You guys done?
I got a question.
Go ahead.
So we're going to have one well servicing the residential and the commercial?
Correct.
2 wells? 2 wells?
Two wells, yeah. Two separate wells, one public water system.
Okay, and sewage disposal is going to be a separate system for the residential, one for commercial?
Correct.
Okay. That's it.
All right, at this time, I'm going to open up to the community. Start there and we'll work our way down.
I have a question. My name is Pat McShane, 19 Washington Street.
Bill, they could say their name and address.
He did.
Okay. My question is, again, Pat McShane, 19 Washington Street. My question is there any plan to address the intersection at 16 and Washington Street? I can appreciate the roundabout down the street, but there's a safety issue at 16 and Washington Street.
Well, I'll take it.
For me, I have to
Well,
go
part
around
of
the
the-
block every day. I'm afraid to make a left turn there.
Yeah, part of the issue is right now is the state's agreed to work with these guys for that roundabout. The state owns 16, we don't. So we don't get to reposition, they won't even allow us to turn Maple Street to a one-way down because they haven't fixed the four corners yet. So they gotta leave that a two-way. This is a debate we've had with the state for quite some time.
I
So
mean,
they're
that's-
not gonna, they're probably not gonna allow them to reach all the way down to Washington Street.
I just see, more traffic on Washington Street because of this. I can see the entrance and the exit. But I'm telling you, it's literally taking your life in your hands to make a turn.
Believe me, I know.
Do you want to add a little bit?
Yeah, so I did have a suggestion that I thought would be well accepted. I don't know how Mass Highway will feel about it. But once we put this roundabout in, if they made Washington Street a left turn only, it would stop the traffic from crossing 16, which is the
You mean a
big
right turn
problem.
only?
Right turn.
I'm sorry, right turn only. That would send the traffic into the roundabout around without stopping, coming back, not having to cross Route 16. There's nothing that we can do about that because it's Mass Highway, but that would be my suggestion, that Washington Street become a right turn only, so you stop that traffic crossing 16.
Well, eventually, I think the state is, when they redo the road in a year and a half, they're gonna be putting lights there.
All right, my point is made.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, I think Mass Highway plans on doing a light at Hartford Ave, a light at, I'm not sure if, no, I think it's the Maple Street intersection, the Maple Street intersection, and then doing some changes to the light down at the center.
See, we got two people with their hands raised, Bill.
Yeah, hold on one second, we got people right here that are,
Joyce Gilmore, 23 Hastings Street. I can't tell the scale of the houses. What size are the lots?
So the houses are 1,600 square foot ranches.
Okay. And again, I'm on the corner, that house on the corner, across the street, yeah.
Yeah.
So I am very, very familiar with the traffic flow. And I did see a plan that in 2025, the state is going to do some definite changes, and that would be good. But I'm just wondering why, as a former engineer, you wouldn't have flipped that development to the other side so that all the traffic would in fact come out at Route 16 and be able to be using that, since I know that land very, very well. I'm just wondering why.
Yes, so the reason we didn't do this, because this portion of the site was already being used commercially.
Correct.
And we wouldn't want to send residential traffic through a commercial site.
No, I'm saying flip your green, that one right there, okay, over to the other side where they own that property. Nope, down. Totally on the other side of that whole subdivision, the commercial part.
Over
Down.
here?
Yes, that's right.
We don't own this property.
A lot of people that you know could probably be concerned to do it, to sell it. And
Just so you know, so the reason we don't do that is that the wetland line, basically, if you can follow my finger, runs like this, basically right along the edge of the property, then up like this, and back like this. So most of this over in here is all wetlands.
Right.
So that would really not give us any opportunity to put this over there. And we don't own any of that land. This is our property line right here.
I do know that.
Yeah.
I do know who owns it. And
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I understand that. But
That's why we didn't consider that. Plus, like I said, the wetland line, I believe, comes like this, kind of follows along this wall, and then hooks up like this and across our site.
Well, it's pretty wet. That whole piece is pretty wet, though.
Yeah, it has high groundwater in the front here.
Pretty wet, that
Yes.
whole,
This area here is high groundwater. That's why we've put the systems back over here.
Right.
Groundwater was down like 42 inches here, so it was pretty good testing here and here. That's
yeah.
why.
I mean, I do know this land very, very well. I've done a lot of perk testing there.
Yeah.
So I do know where the water table is.
Yeah.
I do live in that.
Yeah.
I know that the whole piece is, the whole property is underlain by glacial till.
Yep.
So I'm surprised that you had a 9-minute perk rate, quite honestly. But,
Which we did in the back here. Which is, you'll
right.
see the pine trees there, the soils get much better towards the back of the site. That's why we're doing two systems there. We hit groundwater literally at 8 inches up in the front here.
I know that, yeah.
So it does get better with the pines up.
Been there, done that,
I
seen
know
the,
you have.
got the T-shirt and the sweatshirt.
Excuse me.
We've got Kathy Schofield.
Excuse me?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, hold on one second. Go ahead, Kathy.
Kathy Schofield, 135 Blackstone Street. My question was about the roundabout. If we are going to follow a complete streets policy which the town adopted, I'm curious to know how we anticipate people will be able to cross the street to get over to the grocery store. I mean, I think the idea is to get people, out and make it accessible instead of adding more vehicles. If those lanes are 2 lanes in the roundabout, pedestrian safety is right out the window. And I also question why we are not looking back at the original plan that the state put in front of us, which I believe was a very solid plan, and how we've gone from that to this new plan without really, revisiting the original plan.
So I'm a little confused about the original plan. So we came informally a couple times to the plan.
The state's plan for 16.
Which plan are you talking about, Kathy? I'm sorry.
It is the state's plan, which was very practically laid out.
So, actually, just to answer your first question, we are proposing crosswalks. You'll see them on the plan at both sides of the roundabout, just before each stop sign on each side. So it should give safe pedestrian access across 16, much safer than it is now. The original highway plans show a light there. The roundabout functions much better than the light for traffic. It just flows much better. We do have an animation of the traffic flow at the roundabout, and Mass Highway has to approve this. So if Mass Highway doesn't feel that this works better than the traffic light, they will go back to the traffic light. We can't force Mass Highway to do this. All we can do is come up with a plan that handles the traffic, what we feel is in a better situation than a traffic light at that location. It handles it better right now, and it handles it better in the future. So if Mass Highway feels that is the case, and we're the ones that are willing to spend the money to build it, it's almost a $2.5 million improvement to the road right there. We just think that it's a better situation for the town. If you drive through Norfolk and some of the towns that have done roundabouts, Hudson, Mass., it just promotes walking, and it promotes community in the area of the roundabouts. It's just a better situation.
Yeah.
Kathy.
That, John. I think that, in locations like Norfolk, Hudson, we're not looking at roundabouts in an area that is so densely congested. And I think you're cutting people off from being able to access. You're going to force people to get in their car to go to the grocery store. Because I would not cross a 4-lane, roundabout in a bicycle, in a wheelchair. I mean, I think we're knocking out accessibility to the public by placing it in that location.
Kathy, I have done a ton of research myself regarding traffic circles. I've been to about 19 towns who currently utilize, within the last 10 years, have put traffic circles in. Speaking to the planning directors of those towns, they've decided that that was the best decisions they've made, was to utilize traffic circles over lights. You see them in Amherst, you see them in Northampton. The whole western half of the state prefers a traffic circle over lights.
Yeah, I'm not sure that is the best location for a traffic circle.
Well, the traffic in Amherst is much greater than ours.
Yeah, but I'm thinking, why aren't we looking at, and along with the state, why aren't we looking at locations like where Hartford Ave West and Route 16 meet? Because, slowing the traffic there would allow people to safely approach the lights and for pedestrians to cross. That's just my opinion.
I think the, Bill, I think the roundabout will slow the traffic considerably in that area.
Yeah, it creates
Correct me if I'm wrong.
it creates a steady flow of slower traffic, is what it does. That's what most planning directors,
I live across the street there right now, you know, at any time of the day.
Matt?
If you don't
Well,
mind,
look-
if I
yeah,
add
go
a
ahead.
little bit extra color there. So I mentioned it before, and it might have just gotten overlooked because I was talking a lot. But the roundabout is typically the preferred alternative for the state over lights because it slows down the flow. It keeps flow consistent from all directions. So you're not in a situation where it's a stopped condition at any point. It's always a moving condition, whether it be the site access, Millville, Route 16. And they have very specific design standards in terms of pedestrian circulation, bicycle circulation, and vehicular circulation. And the layout you see here on the screen complies with all of those geometric requirements. So you have islands for pedestrian safety, for cyclist safety. You have separate accessible access points for those bicycles to enter back onto the travelway, because bicycles are not allowed to ride through a roundabout. They're required to get off onto a shared use path and then re-enter after the roundabout. So all that geometry has been built into this specific location to the benefit of the vehicles, the cyclists, and the pedestrians.
and keep in mind, there are at least two crosswalks there. And as far as I'm aware, vehicle traffic is supposed to stop in an occupied crosswalk.
Yeah.
There's 4
They
crosswalks.
should be allowing people to cross.
Just for,
There's 4 crosswalks. Bill.
just for information,
It's for-
I go to Somerville a couple times a week, and Broadway in Somerville by Davis Square was always accidents all the time. Now they have a rotary, and it works so much better. Goes on,
And let me tell you, being in
20
the,
times more traffic than we have.
being in the insurance industry, the insurance industry rather would see towns with rotaries. The impacts are less, there are more fatalities at stoplights because of people missing the light and going through it. It's a 90-degree accident. They're the most fatal that you can have.
I work at, everybody knows I work in Hood Plaza, that's where my office is. So I have to deal with this traffic every day. I deal with it at Washington Street, I deal with it at Maple Street, which I swear every day I'm gonna get killed, because nobody, even when you have a gap, I swear people speed up coming down the hill. And then if I have to leave, if I have to leave Hood Plaza, yeah, it's terrible. When I leave Hood Plaza, if I want to take a left down 16, sometimes it takes me 15 minutes sitting there before I can get an opening, because you got cars coming out of the gas station, cars coming out of the Dunkin' Donuts, cars coming out of the dealership. So you think you have a space, and all of a sudden it's gone. Traffic coming up 16, same thing from the other direction. You get rows and rows of traffic, you just can't get out. What a roundabout does, it allows people to pull up to the stop sign, and all those walks that you see, the 4 crosswalks, there's actually islands between each one. All of those are right at the stop sign. So people are coming up, it's either a yield, it's a stop line here. They're already slowing down to stop before they go into the rotary. So you don't have that speed of the traffic coming down 16 where the crosswalks are. They're already slowing down. They're already almost at a stop before they, right at those crosswalks. So that's the way it's kind of designed to allow pedestrian access across those areas.
Go ahead, Joyce.
Unfortunately, though.
Still got somebody in the back that hasn't had a chance to speak.
Washington Street is not built for 27 cars at a minimum coming out anyway. And it's a historic road. It's not it's a, you know, I mean, the cars come down, they start at my corner and they build up to like 90 miles an hour because it's a straightaway. It's really, you know, I go to play golf, and when I try to go left, I'm 11 minutes late because I can't get out. I mean, I don't know, I can't understand how that traffic is going to work. I mean, if you got 27 cars at a minimum, because most everybody has 2 cars these days, but.
I got a few
Yeah,
people.
and that's one of the reasons one of the additional reasons we really like the roundabout is like John was saying before, instead of ever having to take a left out of Washington Street once there's a roundabout there, you can take the right, go right around the roundabout in a lot less time than it would otherwise require.
I don't like cross-talking my
Apologies,
meetings.
my apologies.
So
Woman in the back.
the questions come here, we'll get you an answer.
Gotcha.
Bill, we got somebody waiting
Now,
patiently up here on the screen.
Hold on, we've got people here too.
I have a few questions.
Name and
My
address.
name is Martha Murphy, and I live at 7 Washington. I believe that the water in my well comes from behind where you want to put 27 buildings. Do we know that to be true? And I believe my neighbors who all are on wells.
Are you guys artesian?
I'm sorry?
Are you artesian well, I would presume? I don't think there's any dug wells left in.
I don't know the difference.
You have a pipe sticking out of your ground? For your well?
I have out of my well, I have like a silver cap.
Yeah, that's an artesian well. I mean, those, depending upon what depth they're at, I mean, you could be hitting an entirely different vein than your neighbor. I mean, those are kind of, and I'll let him speak more to it. He's
Okay,
more
but
knowledgeable on the problem.
I understand from Bill White, my neighbor across the way, he's very concerned about the water coming down because that goes into his well. And he said goes into mine as well. So is there any way that we can get a definitive sense on that? Okay, so we'll hold that. We'll just hold that, all right? Write it down. The second one is that back in, it was a month that was cold, we got to hear about how that whole site, the back side of that site, was going to be sold, and it was going to be 3 buildable lots. And that's what you all approved.
Yeah, and unfortunately.
And now you want to put 27 houses on it.
Unfortunately, we don't own the property, the board. Any applicant who purchases the property has a right to do with their property what they deem necessary. They present an application to us, we have to hear the application. Okay, it's as simple as that. We gotta walk through the zoning, we gotta walk through the engineering. I mean, there's a long way to go before this is gonna get approved, or if it does. But, I mean, he's made a request to the town to put in this development. I mean, we can't tell him no because we approved a 3-unit development before.
Right, but if you've done any sort of assessment on whether or not 27 would be okay?
Well, that's what we're working on now. That's what this whole
Okay.
public hearing's about.
So not the client, not the person who wants to
We're gonna
do
have
it,
peer
but
reviews.
you guys, the town.
He's our engineer right there.
Okay.
We're also gonna have peer reviews on the traffic study.
Okay.
We're gonna have peer reviews on the environmental impact. We're gonna have a peer review, well, council is gonna do a legal review of everything that happens.
Okay.
Trust me, this is a big project for the town of Mendon, similar to when they built the dealerships. It's a big project for the town of Mendon. We gotta dot our i's and cross our t's. We won't just rely on theirs. We will have our own peer reviews done.
And then will we be able to,
They come to every public hearing and you'll get the information.
will you tell us when you're going to talk about the site? Or are you going to talk about it?
We're gonna, after tonight's meeting, we'll probably continue the hearing, we'll give you the date of the continuance.
Okay.
And just make sure you show up.
All right, my next question is, there's no sidewalks on Washington.
Correct.
So what happens with these 27 houses? And plus the density that's already there? Are they gonna get sidewalks?
I mean, that's a decision for the town, but there's possibly, I mean, Mendon's looking at, through the master plan, they're looking at situations where we could possibly add sidewalks. The master plan survey is asking that question of the residents. Anyone who hasn't filled out the survey should take the time to fill it out.
Now,
Yeah, I know.
on this thing, there's only one fire hydrant. on this
It's a
plan?
cistern, it's a, what, how many gallon cistern?
So there's a 15,000, Matt, for the residential?
20,000 gallon cistern for the residential.
And a
then
40,000
there's,
for the...
Dual 20,000, it's 40,000 total out of the commercial.
All right.
So that was discussed with the fire chief. I met with him after I submitted. The two 40,000 cisterns will be located in this area here, where he can pull a truck in, fill up, and get out onto the rotary and go every direction. He wanted 220s there to give fire protection to these houses in this area, because right now he has no water there. They
Yeah.
have to go pump it from the town. That would give him enough water to get a first strike on any fires in the downtown area before he has to go and start pumping to the town. So I agreed with him to do the 220s there to help out the whole area for fire protection. And then there would be another 20,000 specifically just for the residential portion of the site.
All right.
So then I apologize.
Yeah.
So then technically, if this goes through, those people who don't have access to a fire hydrant, and by that I mean, we have to pay higher insurance for our houses, because we don't have a fire hydrant.
This might help with that, because now there's access to the water for the fire department. I don't know anything about the insurance rates or anything like, I can't answer
And-
that question.
I don't want to get off track on this. We got to keep this meeting focused, please. The bottom line is you're paying you don't have that access currently. It's not up to the applicant to provide that to us. Okay? He's got to be focused on his project, not worried about providing hydrants to half the town. So I've got to move on. You've had a fair share of questions. I got a ton of people over here who are looking to, and we'll go to Brendan Chanel.
Brendan Chanel, 16 Washington Street, Brendan. Just want to be clear up front that I'm speaking on behalf of myself and not as a member of the select board. I have, first of all, I want to thank John for taking this time to meet with me and address some of my concerns with the privacy screening and stuff like that. It was a good conversation. I have more of a procedural question. So during your presentation, John, you indicated that there are substantial zoning issues against the town bylaws, both with the residential and with the commercial section. I've also had a chance to review these myself, as well as with several subject matter experts, and I agree with you. My question is for the board. So basically, what standing does the board have to review and approve a plan with substantial outstanding zoning issues?
Well, first of all, I mean, this is going to be a process that we're going to have to walk through at every step. We're going to ask for a briefing from their council as to why they feel it should be allowed. And there are also other opportunities for the applicant to take advantage of that wouldn't put the town in such a well-thought position. With that being said, even our current bylaws, sometimes you have to be careful. Your bylaws are only good as they'll stand up in court, as we found out with the adult entertainment bylaw. So we just have to, we're gonna be walking through this with council as we go. And, you know, if it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. But we've got to receive the application, we got to walk it through the process, and we'll see down the road how the zoning works or doesn't work.
Okay, well, I thanks for that, that explanation. I do want to disagree with you in one place. If the zoning doesn't work as written, there's mechanisms to change that, and that's in town meeting.
That's correct.
So I would like to see that happen, rather than just not enforcing an existing bylaw.
Right.
Thank you, I appreciate the chance.
And that may end up being where it goes.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, there's mechanisms to do a lot of different things that you want in town, and as long as they're done the right way, I think that's perfect.
Let's see, Jack, you've got a couple questions up there, I guess.
Not a question, just for Kathy Schofield's comments, and I'll be very brief. I was the planning director in Hudson for 5 years, and Kathy The Rotary, I redesigned the Rotary in Hudson, which is smack dab right in the middle of town. And it passed muster with the Historic Commission, with the Handicap Commission, with the Downtown Pedestrian Commission. It is possible, and there'll be, we need to focus on some of the details, the design details, but surprisingly, you will have better access, pedestrian access, with a Rotary properly designed than you would with a signal. So I know it kind of is counterintuitive until you see it in action and it's properly designed. And the detail, the devil's always in the details, and this is just a rendering of a Rotary. There's a lot more that goes into it. So if it ever gets to that, I'm very confident it could be designed properly.
I hope so, Jack. Thank you.
You can be quiet for a second. Is there anybody else there that has, Kevin?
So Kathy Atkinson, 25 Washington Street. I guess I do have concerns, seeing as though in Mendon we do have our own private wells with additional, houses. I agree. I think she brought up a good point about, are we drawing our water from the same aquifer? Who knows? Obviously, I'm worried about water pressure. Putting in additional housing and, commercial and the cisterns, is that something where the water just by gravity just fills the cisterns, or is there something where they come and fill the cisterns to make sure that there's 20,000 gallons or whatever? How does that work?
Go ahead.
Oh, and I have one more question as far as the lot sizes. I know these are not going to be conforming lot sizes. I don't know, I can't find the specifics of the lot sizes. What are the lot sizes going to be versus, it sounds like at this point in time, we're being told that, well, if we basically don't accept this plan, then we're going to be having a 40B development put forced on us. So I guess what would be the size of those houses versus what what's being proposed now? And
Well, in regards to your statement regarding the 40B, I think he was indicating that he'd rather go through this situation opposed to going 40B. Because, to be honest with you, 40Bs aren't pleasant. They're not pleasant for the town, they're not pleasant for the applicant in most cases.
I'm with you on that, but it just sounds like if this doesn't go the way they want, then
I don't think
their option.
Yeah, I don't think it was a threat in any nature. I think it's a situation where they're trying to present that this is the best opportunity for the town. 1 second, Jane. Best opportunity for the town. Now let him answer your questions on density and water, too.
Oh, yeah, water right there.
Oh, water, Bill.
Cisterns, the cisterns.
Just quick on the cisterns, they are typically closed systems, either fiberglass or concrete. They are filled when the cistern is put in and accepted by the fire department. If we need to draw upon that for a fire, we are responsible for replacing that. Similar to now when we fill tankers to address the fire, we would fill tankers and come refill those cisterns after. I believe that you can design cisterns to have an automatic fill from a well, but we have not put any of those, with the exception of the one behind Town Hall, but that's at a very low rate. But we haven't put any in there that are automatically filled off of a well.
So the developer would be responsible for making sure that the cisterns are filled with that maximum amount of water?
The tank is designed to hold the 20,000 gallons of water, and then at the time that they turn that cistern over to the town, we will make sure that that is filled.
So it's the town's responsibility after that?
No, I'm sorry. We, the fire department, will make sure that the developer has filled the cistern. If we draw upon that for a fire, we, the fire department of the town, will have to refill that. You know, just real quick operationally, we do have another town that goes to access Lake Nipmuc when we have a fire to refill tankers. That's where we would refill those cisterns.
And then I just want to address the lot size question. So as I said in the beginning of the presentation, we would be going for a variance to allow more than one building on one lot. These units will not have individual lots. They may have exclusive use areas around them, but they're not technically lots. These buildings would all be located on the residential lot. So it would be one large lot with a multi-buildings on it. That's how that is designed.
Oh, it's just one large lot?
It's one large lot that's about 8.5 acres, and it would have that many units on it.
So how much space is allowed for each unit,
So
I
there's,
guess?
right now, there's 27 units on 8.5 acres. You can do the math, quick. You know?
Are you answering that question?
I was going to answer the well question. If
Okay,
we're ready to
and-
move to that.
Answer the well question, then our engineer consultant would like to.
Very good.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So it came up a couple of times about the private wells on abutting properties. So the public water system that's proposed for this project has to be reviewed and approved by Mass DEP. So we request a specific withdrawal rate from the state. The state evaluates that request in relation to the surrounding area. So there are other public water systems in Mendon. They're private wells. They evaluate the entirety of the system, both ours and the surrounding area, to ensure that there's adequate water supply for everyone, not just for our site. So that's part of DEP's responsibility in approving a public water system.
How do they measure that? I mean, how do they measure the rate of water?
There's engineers that are not different. I'm a civil engineer. There's engineers that understand how water migrates through various soil types, through bedrock. The wells out here, at least on this site, are proposed to be bedrock wells. So I would expect most of the wells in the surrounding community to be bedrock wells. As there are experts that understand how all the water dynamics work. I am not one of them, so I can't speak to that.
What's a bedrock?
It's a well that's drilled through.
You're drilling through
bedrock, yeah, to reach down into an aquifer below.
So it has to be a 19.
Yeah, correct.
And just to finish the question on, that averages out to about 13,700 square feet per unit.
Jane?
Jane Wall, 40 Millville Street. I actually think it's better to have houses on smaller lots rather than spread all over the town. There's no question about that. I do want to say that if you go for a 40B, you really can't do anything you want. People think that, but we hired an architect who was on the planning board in Oakham, and he said that 40Bs tried to come in and do anything they wanted there, and they hired a firm in Milford, actually, to tell them what the 40Bs could do and what they could not. They cannot discard all the bylaws in town. So, but I do approve of smaller lots. That's much better for the town.
Jeff?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Jeff Walsh, Graves Engineering. The reason I raised my hand is we're on the topic of lot sizes, and one thing I'm confused about, it's very clear to me that there's a single lot for the residential component. It's very clear to me that the commercial buildings are on a single lot, but what is not clear to me is whether the intention is to have both the residential and the commercial component on one lot altogether, or in two separate lots, one which is the residential portion and one which is the commercial portion.
So it was our intent originally to put everything as a mixed-use project on one lot. But because the town has absolutely no mixed-use zoning, we felt that it was in our interest to do a commercial lot and a residential lot, ask for the special permit for the extension of the pre-existing non-conforming use on the commercial lot, ask for the variance and the special permit on the residential lot. So I submitted today to the town clerk an A&R plan that just, so originally this lot line comes down and extends past this line a little bit and comes out. We doing an A&R that takes a little strip here and puts all of this on the commercial lot. So there's not even a little bit of 5 feet of driveway onto the residential lot. So we're planning to keep the commercial on the commercial lot and the residential on the residential lot.
Have you?
Thank you.
Are those currently two separate?
Yeah, currently there's more than that. There's a lot that in the front here that used to have Barry's on it. There's a lot with the driving range that goes back to the stone wall. There's the lot for 1812 or 18 Washington Street that comes up like this, hooks around and comes down like this. And then we purchased 20 Washington Street, which is another long skinny lot that comes down like that. So the A&R plan that I submitted today that you'll have at the next meeting gets rid of the lot line between 18 and 20, gets rid of the lot line around Barry's, does this small strip here so that the commercial lot has all the commercial on it. And it just cleans up all those lot lines so we don't have to deal with any setbacks from the inside lot lines where we own all the property anyway.
Mr. Chairman, I asked for two reasons. One, I wanted to understand what I'm looking at with respect to reviewing these plans. And two, not that it's the purview of the planning board, but if their wastewater design flow gets to be 10,000 gallons per day on a single lot or contiguous lots owned by the same ownership, they could fall under the groundwater discharge permit program, whereby the septic system really falls under the jurisdiction of the Mass DEP rather than the Board of Health. And I won't get into the particulars of it, it's too early for that, but that helps me better understand what's going on.
We did look at that. We will be under the 10,000 gallons per day.
Okay.
With all the combined systems.
Gotcha. I don't know what the commercial generates, but I know the residential is just short of 6,000 gallons a day. Okay. Thank you.
Barry.
Right, Barry.
Will you have all the housing on a single lot? Is that going to be a housing association?
So it would be more, it would be more like a condo association.
So you're going to set up an association?
Yes, we're setting up an association
Okay.
for the residential units.
Another question, these lots, when you buy a unit or rent a unit, will these units come with a lot? Will they be fenced, or how's that going to work?
They call them, it looks just like a lot plan. They're called the exclusive use areas with the condo. So each house will have a base lot around it that'll be theirs for exclusive use if you want to put a barbecue outside, a patio, whatever you want to do, a pool. And then the rest of the area is all common area, so that everybody has use of the common walking areas and all of that. And we fully plan on having that open to the whole community, not just, this isn't a secured site or anything. It's open to the town to come and walk. One of the questions was sidewalks. We are having sidewalks within our site. The sidewalks start right at the beginning of Washington Street, come around like this, connect to the commercial zone. They also connect to the walking path that comes down like this and through the woods and back out to the sidewalk on this side. So we do have a set pedestrian plan for the entire.
I assume there'll be grass. I mean, someone's going to have to maintain this and the landscaping. Is that going to be the person who buys the unit, or?
No. So if they buy a unit, they'll be responsible for their exclusive use area for cutting the grass, but all of the common space would be landscaped through the association.
Okay.
The condominium association. So right now, we're not sure if these are going to be units for sale or units for rent. So we're not sure what we're going to do yet. So if they're unit for rent, then we would be responsible for upkeep of all the landscaping and everything. If they're sold off individually, then it would be a homeowners, it would be a condominium association.
Yeah, I was just thinking more about property lines and fences and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I did a site similar to this in Marlboro, 550 units, and they were all exclusive use areas. People can put up fences around their exclusive use area, but they can't encroach onto the public space. So they can do some fencing and stuff on their own little exclusive use area. But other than that, it's all open space. It's all.
Thank you.
open space.
Peter?
Peter Coffin, 3 Old Sawmill Road. My wife owns 31 Hastings Street. I've planted a field in that back, and that is a very high groundwater, especially in the winter. And so I have a lot of issues basically on all the infrastructural levels because of the density. So first of all, with the traffic, you got to break it into two. Okay, the commercial, we need commercial. Yeah, you're improving it. What lets you go from 200 feet back to 600 feet back? We owned 300 feet back, had to get a special permit from ZBA, and they don't allow us to use the upstairs of the barn. So zoning, why can't we do, so it's an equity issue, but it's the intent of the town. Okay, is this where we want all of our major, legitimate discussion. When you're looking at the housing, I too am a fan of small lots, but let's be honest, not the average size. Judging from the scale, it's going to be 80 by 80. 6,000 square, which in a town, a city, is a good size. There's a big difference between 15,000, 20,000, the average lots in that neighborhood, versus 5,000. So traffic intensity, you're doing your best to buffer it, but there's not going to be any buffer from the north side because that's 100 feet open. There's a road coming in. All the traffic is coming out of there. My other major concern would be the traffic coming from the Congdon's house, which is good. You're putting up a fence, and that stops everyone from using that egress. But how do you get a long way with a cul-de-sac 1,000 feet long? I guess there's emergency access with that gated, but that's awkward. I'm saving my major concern for last, which is sewer and water. My personal major concern is stormwater. And the proposal you've proposed with Hartford Avenue, which is a private road with no drainage, I am challenged also on the Concom to think that you can make that happen with very little settling basin. And you're proposing this in spades. I don't see any, you say you're going to handle with rain gardens, it's going to go all down to the hill, but how it gets there, all those houses, if they're going to have basements, we have a sump pump that goes to the city catch basin. If we didn't have that, which might not be legal now, every one of those houses is going to have a sump pump going onto their lawn. Where is the water going to go? Where is the water going to go from all the houses and all the driveways and all the paved roads? Speaking of which, it's only 22 feet wide. Is that sufficient for security? I don't know. So that's a concern, and I guess we'll be seeing it at the Concom. The sewer, it's a package treatment plant, I guess. I don't know what the difference, how you're handling it, and you're breaking it into, you have two different waters, one for the house and one for the commercial, but the sewerage is all one? Is that the way it's going to work? Sorry, I got that. So that and the water, yes, we're all sucking out of the groundwater. Yes, we might be in different cracks, but there's quite a few houses existing there now. And just on the, it seemed to me at 27 houses, 54 bedrooms, that's at 220 gallons a day. Is that like 10,000 gallons per day? I didn't quickly do the math, but I don't know if you get how many gallons per minute you need for that. So I just have concerns on all those infrastructures. Thank you.
So I'll let Matt, so what
would
you like me to answer first?
Hold on one second. Before we get too off base, I want to stick to what the planning board application deals with. So I don't want to get too far off into wetlands and all this other stuff. But, and if there's any questions, our engineer consultant could answer them.
Hey, Bill.
Yes, Damon?
So we have a town engineer that's gonna review this whole plan, right?
Yeah, there's gonna be more than that. We're actually gonna have peer reviews
Right.
done on
But
traffic.
we have a town engineer, Jeff Walsh, that's gonna review the stormwater, water management. He's gonna review everything on the plan, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's within the jurisdiction of the planning board.
That's correct.
Yep.
We
Miss-
stay in our lane.
Thank you.
Yep.
Peter,
You're
we've
welcome.
had this discussion before. I can't allow us to be worried about septic design and all that stuff. We're looking at the location where it's sitting. It's up to, Jeff will tell us whether it works. And then it's got to go to the Board of Health for approval.
I would say, just on the general, this is new for the town.
That's correct.
especially. So on that extent, that density question, which you are deciding,
That's correct.
has impacts on water, traffic, sewer, groundwater. So that's all I'm saying, that is within, yes, okay,
Right.
stormwater exists, Board of Health is septic, DEP's gonna do that.
And
But
we-
in general, the answer for the design is the density and numbers.
But, correct. But we're looking at something different here that Mendon's never looked at before. And it may be a situation where Mendon needs that type of housing. This is what we gotta look at. But we also need to look at, we gotta walk this thing through every step, as I said before. This is gonna take a progression. I mean, we're gonna have peer reviews done. People have to look at the traffic and the environmental impacts. And we're gonna be, and of course Jeff's own engineering. And we're gonna be taking it through all those steps. And these aren't relying on their engineers to tell us. These are hiring people at their cost, hiring people to represent the town to do a peer review. I mean, I've looked back at, I wasn't on the board. I don't think anybody here was on the board when they did the dealerships. But any project this size, and I haven't found an application yet that ever had peer reviews from the town side. I think every project this size, the town should be doing peer reviews. So we will be having the peer reviews done on all that, and those people will answer our questions for us. They're gonna get paid to represent us.
I was on the zoning board when they did the plaza where you are, Woods Plaza, and the people on the zoning board did not want that set back more than 200 feet. That's why it's so close to the road. And it should have been set back another
Was it?
200 feet, or 300 feet. Should have been set back to 300 where they wanted it.
Was that the,
Hood Plaza,
oh, Hood Plaza, yeah.
because they
Yeah, I
kept
remember
it,
that.
they made them keep it the 200 foot. And I voted the opposite, I wanted it deeper, and I got over it.
It also has a septic in the back, which.
Well, that would have been reworked in the site plan at the time. But it's too close to the road now. There's no parking there, parking stops.
All right, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to cover a couple things that Peter went over. So the commercial section is conventional drainage with catch basins, sumps. They flow into a detention basin that has a forebay and a regular detention basin. And then the roof drains go into an infiltrator unit that we have to do testing. It has to be 4 feet above groundwater, so the water infiltrates back into the ground. The only country drainage there is on the residential portion that runs into swales, but that all runs into the conventional detention basin. I know you were talking about 29 Hartford Ave. That's more of totally country drainage, where this is a mix of country and regular drainage to get our total suspended solids where they have to be, prior to discharging in the back into the wetland area back here. As far as the septic systems, they're basically conventional systems. They'll be Presby systems. It's a conventional system. We're trying to stay under the 10,000 gallons per day, so we can do conventional systems, so we don't have to do a sewer treatment plant or anything like that on the site. And we're gonna, if something changes in here, we'll play with the numbers to get below. We'll play with the number of units or something to keep it below that 10,000, just so you know. We're not expecting this as a quick process. We want to work with everybody in the town to try to get the best development we can here It was not a threat. I was just saying an option for us was to go 40B. We chose not to do that. We chose to come to the town and try to work this out with the town. Mendon has never had anything like this. We think it's a project that's a perfect location for a project like this in the downtown area, and we'll see what happens. You know, we're not 100% sure of how this is going to turn out, but we're presenting something that we think is a good plan that has been thought out thoroughly, that we're at a 75% design stage with the roundabout with Mass Highway, which we're trying to work things out with everybody here and everybody in town.
Jay Kraus, 17 Washington Street. I just have a comment and a question. I moved into my house 2 years ago, directly across the street from your proposed entrance and your dual soil absorption field. I will say, when I moved into my residence, everyone asked me where I was going, and I told them Washington Street. The feedback was unanimous. It's one of their favorite streets in town, one of the most beautiful roads in town, scenic vistas, stone walls, all of that. There's only a handful of them left in town, right? And we should be protecting them at all costs, because once they're gone for good. The potential crowning jewel to that street is the Mellon House, built in the 1700s, belonging to Selectman Brendan Chanel. That house should be preserved. So you mentioned previously, when you opened, about your reputation in town and some of the things that have gone on. And quite frankly, this is one of the reasons why. This is one of the things that should be protected. And this is a very impactful project in a lot of different ways to a lot of different people. It has sentimental value to people in town, right? I think, you know, me personally, across the street from a dual soil absorption field, I've hunted those woods back there for years, and I've sank up to my knees in standing water, maybe even one of those test sites that was done back in November. I don't know where the water is going to go, and I don't know what that soil absorption field is going to look like, how it's going to affect my well water. It's a big question mark. The traffic as well. I'll leave it at that.
So we have to meet Title V regulations on the septic system. They'll all be designed to Title V specifications. They shouldn't affect your well at all. They shouldn't affect your groundwater at all. We've had the wetlands flagged. We know where the wetlands are. We know where groundwater is in this area. We've done testing out there. All I can say is we'll follow all the regulations as best we can, and we are absolutely trying 100% that you will not see these units from Washington Street. You'll see the stone walls along Washington Street. You'll see screening in depth along Washington Street, and we're going to gate it just for the purpose that you can't see in and see so the only thing you'll see is the stone walls in the gate, unless somebody's coming in and out.
So I certainly appreciate the gesture. I think if you were to take a look at Millville Road and the people that abut the Imperial dealerships, there's a white fence there. I don't know that it serves the purpose that you're talking about, so I think, how this turns out, it's a big question mark for people. They don't know what it's going to look like. And when you take 27 of anything and you add it to the landscape along with a commercial development and all those trees are gone, you can't hide it. I might as well be looking at Comm Ave in Boston when it's all said and done, or downtown Milford. It's going to be tough to disguise that, and I think that's what has people concerned. It's Washington Street. It's a gem in town.
So I fully believe that we can screen it, so none of this shows. We'll come forward with renderings and street renderings, what you're going to see from the street with elevations. We'll bring that in for you guys. We'll slowly work through this process until you're comfortable that you're not going to see the units there. That's all I can say is we'll do the best we can to screen everything from Washington Street. Our whole thought process with this right from the beginning, after I talked to Kathy Schofield, was getting this so you don't see anything different from Washington Street other than the house and the barn and then the entranceway. We're hoping that you don't see any of these units from Washington Street, and we'll work with landscape architects, fence design, so that you can't see in there. That's all I can say. We'll try to do the best we can to screen it.
Just one quick thing to add to what John was saying. you can't see it on the rendering, obviously, but the beauty of this site is everything falls off from Washington Street. So the further into the site you get, the lower the elevation of the site is, which will also help screen in addition to all the elements John's talking about. Just wanted to make sure everyone understood that.